Hi, I'm starting my IOP here today. So, nearly everyone seems to have the same reaction to change, whether it is for the better or for the worse. Resistance. Afterwards, the extent of a person's adamance against the change leads them to either continue to resist, uh, which is when the person dislikes the change, tolerate the change, which is when the person is afraid of the change, or accept the change wholly, which is when the person feels the change is for the better. This is a common theme throughout the three works I'm looking at today, which is Things Fall Apart, The Color Purple, and The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass. And in these three works, the reaction to change is influenced by a person's adherence to something quite important to them, which is tradition. A person's adherence to change prevents them from truly seeing the possible benefits of a change, as the person does not want to digress from the traditional way of life in their separate books. I decided to create a story in order to further describe this theme of how tradition prevents one from truly understanding a change. So let's go and start. It was a nice, quiet, and subdued evening, and the manager in the store was beginning to sigh with satisfaction while drinking a cup of coffee in his office. "What a day," said the manager, lying back in his chair. He had recently chatted with his contractors about the recent renovations that had been made after he had opened the store earlier that day. Most people throughout the day had liked the changes. In the past, the people had troubles finding their goods. The fish had been compiled with the vegetables, the meat had been with the dairy products, and the bathroom was so far away from the main floor that the janitors were hired every month, and other countless problems existed from this as well. The manager had talked with quite a few of the customers and employees throughout the day, and had been pleased that no major complaints had arisen with finding various items within the new layout. An associate popped into the office. "Sir," said the associate, "there are a few people here with complaints about the recent renovations that we have made. They want to speak to you." The manager frowned and quietly suffered. "Of course some bothersome people had to come in right when I was about to call it good night," he mumbled. "Tell them to come in," replied the manager. A tall man with bushy eyebrows and a wide nose, with large muscles, strode into the office. He breathed heavily and angrily walked up to the manager. The manager calmly said, "Good evening, sir. What happens to be the problem tonight?" "My name's Okonkwo," replied the man, "and I'm extremely displeased about this change with the place I have always known and trusted for my food. I am planning a feast, and I have to give twice my share of cola nuts in order to be presentable." The manager opened his mouth to speak, but was interrupted. "I am deeply hurt by the recent modifications that have been made to this store," he replied fervently. "Well, sir," said the manager, why don't you seem to feel pleased about the recent changes? I think that the place looks much nicer and more pleasant than before the changes." "It is not so," Okonkwo countered quickly. "Why, look at the fruits and vegetables. They're looking much farther within the store than they were before. Everything is a few calories higher than before, and everyone here is here only because there's no other place to go to. This rearrangement of the items within your store gives me great displeasure." "I'm sorry, sir," the manager quickly replied. "This is just the store's decision to keep up with the changing times. Now, I'm sorry you feel this way, but most of the other customers throughout the day have agreed with my judgment that the store is a much better place to shop now that the renovations have been made," he calmly said. "Now, I'm sorry if I did not catch this before, but what is exactly your complaint?" he questioned. "I'm afraid I do not understand." "Let us not reason like cowards," replied Okonkwo. "If a man comes into my hut and defecates on the floor, what do? Do I shut my eyes? No! I take a stick and break his head. This is what a man does, and this is what shall do. I will leave and gather my friends and fight this store. This is what I shall do, and do not bother me again," raged Okonkwo. "This place has changed too much. It is like beginning life anew without the vigor and enthusiasm of youth, like learning to become left-handed in old age. This is what the store has become," he sighed. "I'm not coming back," he threatened. "So be it," replied the manager, and Okonkwo walked out of the office furiously, declaring that he would never return to the store. The manager sighed. "What a guy," he said, lying back in his chair. He summoned the assistant. "Who's next?" he questioned. The assistant walked to the next man, who immediately walked towards the door. "Come in," said the manager. A man with a look of distress entered the room. "Please, sit down," said the manager, and the man looked at him, and then sat down. The manager started. "How are you, sir?" "My name's Albert," said the man. "I'm very confused by the new layout here. I get home today and I find out that I got no meat at home. So I get here to buy some ham, and I just can't rack my brain around this new layout. I asked the guys around here, but they look at me like I'm crazy. Everything was just so familiar before, and now I just can't get anything around here. I feel a mighty bit of resentment against you guys for this. What had been wrong before with this place?" "Nothing." "Well," laughed the manager, "there's in fact a new map of the layout, very near the second aisle. It's located within the new flyer that we just made for this occasion." "Oh," replied Conquo, "I hadn't realized that before since I came here. Thanks for pointing that out. But I still got a question. Why'd you guys change this place so much? It was so fine before." The manager quickly replied, "You just don't understand, do you, man? Why, it was a mess before. Everyone was complaining and yapping about how everything was out of order, how our products would go bad before the expiration date said that they were supposed to, and screeching about how they had only had one exit at the back of the building. Besides the other fellow that just came in, I haven't heard any complaints about the new design. Everyone looked a lot more relieved about this place now." "But Albert stammered. He paused. "Well, I don't feel too comfy about this place," said Albert finally, "and I can't see why others might not like the place that well. I didn't see no problems with any of the things you mentioned right there before." "I know what you're thinking," replied the manager. "It's always difficult to see exactly why things have to change. You just see, the traditional alignment was just not going to cut anymore." Albert shook his head. "You people sure must have a heap of time to sit here and think about this kind of thing," said Albert. "I never thought about how much trouble it was for everyone. I think I'll come back here sometime. Thanks again. I'll be sure to check out some of them flaps in the flyers." He stood up from his chair, looking thoughtfully at the manager. He got up and determinedly walked out of the room, his hands smothering his forehead. "Well, I'm glad that went well," said the manager. "Only the other man before could just be more considerate and reasonable about the changes like this man could. Well, it's all the same, no matter what they think. Anyone else?" "Yes, one more," replied the associate, and he summoned the next man to walk into the room. A white man with an angry scowl and a brash walk stumbled into the office. He stood at the head of the chair with a mischievous grin on his face. In a moment, he sat down into his chair in a lazy manner. "How are you doing today, sir? Did you find everything okay?" asked the manager. "No, and I'd like to stop this little chittering right now. I got a bunch of guys back on my plantation sitting around sober, doing nothing. Why, I'm sure right now they're out having a little fun right now, messing around with the other guys from their other plantations, putting things into little heads of theirs," blazed the man. I figured that I ought to put a stop to that." The manager opened his mouth to speak, but was quickly interrupted by the man. "Well, I think to myself, Edward Covey, what can I do to stop these guys from getting too many idle thoughts into their heads? And I got the perfect idea. Whiskey! That'll suffice. So I go here, stride into the store, and look around. I search and search and search, and I can't find a thing. I ask some of your guys, the workers who work here, and they can't find anything neither. I think that'd be a mighty problem for you guys." The manager spoke up. "Excuse me, sir, but I feel as though you're being much too harsh upon our workers. You have your own workers, correct? You don't treat them like this, do you?" Mr. Covey opened his mouth, but was quickly interrupted. "It's amazing, isn't it?" said the manager. "I've worked here for about 9 years now, worked here today, never got up a complaint. I'm tired, sir, dead tired today because you guys don't know how to work yourselves," he raged. The manager slumped a bit in his leather chair. "Sir, if you'll please just understand, I put up with some outlandish comments today. Sir, if you want to find out what you're looking for, please just look at the flyer and go." "Well, take hold of this guy," replied Mr. Covey. "Sir," the manager bitterly replied, "go out of this office this instant. I can't stand you being here anymore. Get out!" "Now wait a minute, don't you think I'm going to leave here without a fight?" replied Mr. Covey. "Leave," barked the manager. "Don't cross me! Leave!" Mr. Covey backed away a bit. He sensed that he crossed the line, and knew that trouble was not far beyond the horizon. He moved away from his chair a bit and rose. He looked again at the manager, ready to back away. The manager looked at him with a defiant blaze in his eyes, and Mr. Covey grumbled and walked out. "Now that's how it works," laughed the manager. "What a miserable evening." The manager slowly walked to the door with a tired stare at his assistant. He began to recollect himself and walked to a water fountain located within the restroom area. The assistant followed him. Politely, he asked, well, that was some night, was it not? You feeling okay?" "Fine," replies the manager, looking at the clock. "It is nearly midnight." "What those guys say to you?" questioned the assistant. "They complain about the place?" "Because, it's not really our fault that the company—" "No," interrupts the manager. "It's just the usual. People complain about things that they don't like. Things that are different than their traditional way. I just can't wrap my head around it. People just wanted everything to stay the same. No one ever got anywhere without sticking their head out. There's a saying. The turtle has its hard shell. Deflects all criticism, all punishment. But the only time a turtle ever moves is if it sticks out its neck. That's progress." The associate shrugged. He replied lazily, "Well, if I know one thing, I know that they won't bother us again." So that's 11:17. That's not really bad, actually. So, that was my IOP. Very, need to, edit a bit. But I feel pretty good about it, So, thank you for watching, and hope this gave you some partial inspiration for your own IOP if you're looking at this. Hey, thank you. You're still here, aren't you? Will you go round in circles? Will you fly high like a bird up in the sky?